Does your dog pull on the leash? Trust me, we've all been there. And you may have been trying to find a solution, and you may have heard trainers, or you may have looked on Google and you may have seen shorten the leash or only give your dog a reward when your dog is on the left-hand side and not pulling and things like that. But the truth is, all of these methods are ineffective because they're not showing our dog what we want from them. Yes, we're rewarding them on the left-hand side and we're shortening the leash, but that's not teaching them what we really want. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how to effectively train your dog to stop pulling on the leash. But just before that, I'm going to quickly cover why your dog is pulling. Because if you don't understand why your dog's pulling, what's the reasons behind the pulling, then you're not going to be able to properly teach your dog how to not pull, or the proper leash etiquette. So you really need to stay for this whole video because I'll be giving you tips throughout, but I'll make it quick. So dogs pull on the leash for a variety of reasons. They could be fearful or anxious of their surroundings and they just kind of want to get the walk over and done with as quickly as they possibly can. And that's why socialization is important at a young age. Or your dog may have just been allowed to do kind of whatever it wants on walks in the past, and so when you take them out, they kind of go nuts and they do whatever they want, and they'll drag you over to that tree to sniff, and they'll drag you over to this other dog to greet them and things like that. Or another common reason, and one that's often overlooked, is simply that our dogs walk faster than us, and they've learned that pulling on the leash is how they get us to pick up the pace. Whether it's one of these reasons or two of these reasons or none of these reasons, you've first got to identify why your dog is pulling. For instance, if you think they're fearful or they're a bit nervous or a bit anxious, then you've got to work on that. You've got to work on their socialization and work on building their confidence before you can try and stop the leash pulling. But no matter the reason for your dog's pulling, they have learnt that whenever they pull on the leash, we move forwards, and we reinforce this whenever our dogs pull and we take even just one step. This gives our dogs a clear signal that pulling does in fact work. Now, a lot of sources will say if your dog is pulling, stop walking for a bit until your dog stops pulling and then keep going. And this may seem like it makes sense and it does work, but it's not as effective as this method I'm about to show you. Because even though we're stopping and we're getting our dogs to stop and we're trying to communicate to our dogs that when they pull we stop, it's not making as much of an impact for our dog's walk because they're still moving in the direction they want to go. So let's get stuck into my method. The key to stopping your dog from pulling is to take charge of your walks. So your dog shouldn't be dictate where you go. We should be leading the way for them. And the way we do this is by keeping our dogs guessing. Okay, so for this exercise, you're going to have your dog on a leash, and all you're going to do is you're going to start walking. Watch this. I'm walking Frankie. When Frankie looks like he's sure where we are going, I silently change direction and walk the complete opposite way to the way we were going. Because he wasn't watching, Frankie hit the end of the leash and then turned back to follow me. Again, he knew where we were going, and so he didn't look at me, and when I turned away, he hit the end of the leash. Again, the same thing happens. Frankie started going his own way and I changed direction and he hit the end of the leash. Now watch this. As I turn away, he glances at me and follows me around so he doesn't hit the end of the leash, and so he's rewarded for this. And this not only shows that our dog's pulling doesn't get them any further, but that we actually go backwards and they lose ground from the place they wanted to go. Remember with this exercise that you shouldn't say anything to your dog at all. We want them to keep checking back and looking back at us and looking at us without having to say anything. And initially, your dog's going to keep hitting the end of the leash and looking back at you as if to say, oh, I see we're going this way. And after a few repetitions, they'll start to get the idea and they'll start to go, oh, I better keep an eye on you because you keep changing it up on me. So your dog will start looking at you more and more. And when you do change directions and your dog follows you without actually hitting the end of the leash, then you want to reward them, whether that be with praise or treats. Now, if your dog naturally comes to your left-hand side when you're moving away and walking, then you're just going to jackpot them. And jackpot just means they get a bigger reward than what they normally get. Because ultimately, we want them to not pull on our left-hand side. Now, you want to practice this in multiple places, your backyard, your driveway, and your street. And it also pays to do this exercise before each walk, to remind your dog that they're not in charge and that you're going to let them know where they can go. So that's all for today, and if you are trying to stop your dog pulling, then let me know what's happening with you and your dog down in the comments. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.